Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Yes. Hello and welcome. This is Kuku, your host. I want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day, particularly the black men in the African or black community. You are needed and you are appreciated. I want to deal with a couple of things today. Well, largely I want to deal with the myth. There is a myth that there are no black fathers. The black fathers are absent. And you have people who are pushing this narrative that there's a crisis and fatherless America and all this kind of stuff. And the truth of the matter is that that's not necessarily true. In today's show, I want to go back. Let me find it here real quick. Back about 5 years ago, Tyrese and another brother were on an HLN show with the host Mike Galanos, I think is his name. And they were talking about this crisis in the African American community. Crisis of no fathers. And the fact of the matter is that's been disproven time and time again. The CDC found that more black dads are involved with their kids on a daily basis than dads from other racial groups. Pew did some research and they found that there wasn't much differences between white and black fathers. So where is this myth coming from? Well, it's coming from lack of actual intimate knowledge of what's going on in black households, and it's come from this lie, essentially, that's been carried down from generation to generation that black fathers are just absent. Now, let's be real. We do have instances of single mother families in the black community. By the way, we're not the only ones doing it. Check the Latinos, check white folks, they have it too. So we do have it, but it's, of course, with us, you have to make things twice as bad. So when they project the imagery, they project this imagery of black guys just ain't shit. We don't take care of our kids, and we're the reason why there's all these problems. But again, research has shown that that's categorically not true. I have it here. This interview with Tyrese and another black guy whose name I don't remember. And they're talking about this crisis, and it starts off with Mike Galanos, the host, listing off the so-called stats. And I want you guys to really pay attention to the game that's played here by white supremacists and white supremacist suspects. They like to play with stats, and they take stats and they warp them. And see, once people hear some statistics on the news, on television, they think it has to be the gospel truth. We see that going on right now with Trump as president. Trump and them know that when they say something, most people, especially most white Americans, aren't really going to research it. It came from a white guy, must be true. And some of us Negroes are out here like that too. Oh, it came from a white guy, must be true. It's on the news, must be true. And so they play off of that. And oftentimes what they do is they pull these statistics. They do it a lot with black-on-black crime. Right? They do it a lot with black-on-black crime when other groups have the same amount of crime pretty much as blacks do, which is interesting because with black Americans, we're the ones who are historically disenfranchised. We're the ones who don't have access to certain levels of education, definitely don't have access to a whole lot of money and generational wealth, and yet we're still the same as some of these groups who have the access, particularly the white group. So anyway, I want to play some clips, and this is in fair use, okay? I want to play some clips, and we'll talk about some of the other aspects of today's broadcast.
Black fathers in America, it's no laughing matter, because many experts say there's a crisis when it comes to black fathers in this country. Now, a study done by the Pew Research Center says 1 out of every 4 fathers live separately from their children, so there's more than 20 million kids who don't have dad at home, and it gets even more startling by race. 21% of white dads live away from their kids, and the number more than doubles to 44% when you talk about African-American fathers. So we're going to talk about that and just the importance of being a dad. We're happy to have with us 2 special guests.
I just wanted to pause it there to point out something. Now, he said 1 out of 4 black fathers are not in the home. Sorry, only 1 in 4 black fathers are in the home. Now, again, this is where he and folks like him are distorting the numbers. While it is true that a lot of black fathers are likely to live separately from their children, it's really about only 67% who do that, and also most black fathers, even though they live separately from the children, they play an active role in their daily lives still. Higher percentage of blacks play an active role in their children's lives when they're not in the home than whites do. I think only 59% of whites do, and Hispanics are like 32%. Okay? So again, even with the difficulty of not being able to be in the home with the children, most black men actually spend time with their kids. More than whites, more than Hispanic. Let's continue.
One actor, author, Tyrese Gibson, joining us from Los Angeles. Also with us, Eric Payne. He's from New York City, now calls Atlanta home. He's written a book called Dad as Easy as ABC, the 26 Do's and Don'ts about being a dad. He's a daddy blogger as well. And to lay everything out there, Eric, he's the father of a 17-year-old stepson. His daughter, toddler, 6 years old, love that age. Tyrese has a 5-year-old daughter. So and Eric, I'll start with you. Let's get right to that crisis word. Do you agree with that sentiment, that there's a crisis with black fathers in this country?
I do think that there's a crisis. I mean, it's not anything that I'm interested in sensationalizing, but I do, with that statistic alone, that's something to be concerned about.
Do you hear what he just said just now? He's not interested in sensationalizing it, but that statistic alone makes him have to say something about it. See, that's the game played with how stats are used to sway your thinking. Let's continue.
Right. It's an eye-opening number. Tyrese, let's hit you on this one, because even if dad is not home, it's about involvement with our kids. I mean, it's about seeing them and talking to them daily and walking through life with them, right?
Right. Well, I mean, listen, I have a saying that excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. And there's plenty of black men in particular who got plenty of excuses as to why they're not involved and more, around their children. But I also want to address this, which a lot...
Let me pause it here for a brief second. Tyrese just fell into the trap. While we all know of situations, like I said earlier, where there are single moms raising black children, just the research shows that most black men who are fathers are responsible and aim and do play a role in their children's daily lives. Now, what's being played upon here by Tyrese is the fact that we all know of those situations. We all know of someone, or we heard of someone, or what have you, who doesn't play a role. They would be that minority group, that what's it, like 33% group, okay? They're that minority group, and what's happening here is Tyrese is looking at that group and making them representative of the whole. And that's a problem that we have to learn to avoid in the black community. Let's continue.
A lot of people don't talk about how often is that black father or father in general reaching out, trying to get access to his kids, and because you're dealing with an ex-wife, girlfriend, mother of your child, fiance, who's now bitter and hostile and angry because the relationship is no longer, who's going above and beyond to use that resentment to block access from the father getting to the child.
So then that speaks to, and I want to hit both of you, but Tyrese, I'll stay with you. We as dads, and especially it sounds like in the African-American community, have to fight for our kids, have to fight for time with our kids because we know how important it is, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's so many black fathers that are locked up and in prison. That's why we're amongst the lost generation. I think ultimately, if you don't have a father to look up to, then you're gonna probably gravitate towards the most prominent, influential black male in your neighborhood, and they end up being influenced by the Crips, the Bloods, and the thugs that are in their neighborhood because they're looking for someone to look up to.
Wow.
Let's unpackage what Tyrese just said. He said quite a bit that could take hours to discuss, actually. He talked about the fact that men oftentimes are being kept away or pushed away from being around their children by women, by the mothers of these children. And it's interesting because I mentioned Pew earlier. Pew did research back in 2010, and they found that 67% of black women said that income is very important to them when they're choosing a spouse, whereas with white women, it was only 32% important to them. 55% of black women said it was very important for their men to be well educated, versus 28% for white women. 50% of black women said that financial stability is important, versus white women at 25%. What that basically implies is that black women have a difficult time finding ideal mates. And so when you have a difficult time finding an ideal mate, there's going to be that resentment. There's going to be that ability to push away these men ultimately because you find them to not have any value to you. As a matter of fact, other research has shown that black women prefer to have matriarchal families where women are the head of the family. So that, in addition to the statistics I just gave you, pushes towards the fathers not being in the home. And as Tyrese mentioned, this is the other part I want to touch on. In the father's not home, even though research has shown that black men do play a part in their children's lives, but if we're in two different places, even though I'm playing a role in your life, if we're in two different places, that allows for certain negative corruptors to enter into your child's lives. You know, so some of the guys who are around the neighborhood every day, who the kids pass by every day, they're going to see that lifestyle that those guys are living, the Bloods, the Crips, the Thugs, and they're going to probably gravitate towards that, because it's one thing to be a father in the home where you can monitor things going on a daily, but it's another thing to be a father who's been relegated outside of the house, okay? And who has to kind of parent from a distance, so to speak, or intermittently. So this is a big problem that we have in the black community. These matriarchal families, that's affecting the ability of men to actually be in the home, and it's affecting it so much that research has also shown that black men tend not to want to remarry, whereas other races do. So that tells you something. That tells me something, and I'd like to hear your comments in the comment section. Do you think it's the thinking or the thought process or the ways, so to speak, of our black women that are making it difficult for black men to actually be in the house, to be able to more closely monitor what's going on with the children, make sure they're not being seduced by the streets. Is there a matriarchy problem, not a lack of black fathers problem? Okay? But I'd also like to add that black fathers out there, from one father to the rest of you, you are doing well, and what you're doing is impressive. To be in a position where being in the house is difficult for you, but still playing an active role in your children's lives, that's just awesome. When you think about the systemic racism, right, that's going on, that's shutting us out from certain levels of education, that's shutting us out from certain opportunities, and actually adding to joblessness and all these types of things that make us to be viewed as less ideal than what we really are. Remember the stats I threw out there, what black women look for in a man. We're still doing well, and I encourage you to do better, and I encourage you to do more, to reach out to those guys, that minority group who is actually a deadbeat, and to try to pull them up too. And if you can't get through to them, then let's be dads to more than just our biological children. Okay? But the last few words I'm going to say is that I am impressed by what we've been able to do under the circumstances. We're more likely to provide financial support to our children versus other races. We understand that you need to spend time with our kids, so even though we're not in the home, we do try to do that. And this is while battling imprisonment. This is all while battling our mortality rates. We die out, black men die out faster than anyone else. We're 6 times more likely to be imprisoned than anyone else. We're historically shut out of jobs and opportunities and certain levels of education. So be proud today. Today is your day. I and no one else should be wishing any women a happy Father's Day. I think that's nonsense, and it's disrespectful to black men out here who are trying. Black women and black women had their day last month. Today is your day. Cherish it, cherish your kids, and continue to be the best that you can be. And let's all be better. Okay? Until next time, this has been the Bitter Medicine podcast. Oh, and before I go, I would like to get more bloggers to our site at bittermedicineblogs.com. It's a black empowerment blog. I want people to write about various topics, to be consistent, to be timely, just produce content. So I'm looking for bloggers. I am also looking to build a network around this show under the KWAZ radio program. So if you have a blog idea, hit us an email at bitter.medicine.podcast@gmail.com. I'm looking for anything that has to do with black empowerment. All topics are good topics. Okay? So until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.